lass lie near me, and let the brandy cheer ye. For the road fae 50 Falkirk's long, cold and wet and weary. My trade it is the weaving, in the bonny tune a leaving, and we'll drink our health to the farmer's dames who'll buy her cloth them on. You can see them are the lads of the fair, lads for the Forth and the car and water, working lads and lads with gear, lads what sell you the brother's daughter. Soldiers back for the German wars, peddlers up for the border, and lassies with an eye for more than the kye. At the Christ and Fair at Falkirk.
It's not just about wearing tartan and hating the English mind. I mean, I'm glad when I see them taking a beating, that's fair enough, but there's more to being Scottish than that. Niall pauses for a moment, stares at Jake. Are you still pissing yourself over this? Just because I'm proud to be from Scotland? Proud when I see that flag? Proud when I see that Parliament? Jake stops laughing, stares back incredulously. The Parliament? You're actually proud of that, Heath?
And buy ourselves a Jill or tea, and drink to the lads who'll buy a kye and Falkirk's tune them on. You can see them all, the lads of the fair, lads with the Forth and the car and water, working lads and lads with gear, lads what sell you the brother's daughter. Soldiers back for the German wars, peddlers up for the border, and lassies with an eye for more than the kye. At the Christ and Fair at Falkirk.
Having just had his first novel, Shopfront, published, I spoke to Samuel Best to get an insight into the life of a young Scottish writer.
Stand here and I'll show ye, there's a tune below ye, but we'd best bide here in the barn night for the night watch, and then know ye, my brother, he's a ploughman.
Shopfront is the story of Ben, who is a recent graduate with an English degree. He graduates into a recession with no jobs. So he reluctantly moves back to small town Linlithgow to live with his parents, and he takes a job in Asda stacking shelves, and meets the sort of boys who work there, and finds out they're involved in this kind of petty gang rivalry thing that's going on, and Ben finds himself dragged into that, and then within that group of friends he has a connection with this boy Niall, who is going through his own kind of storm of, he's having a bit of a sort of cancer scare, he doesn't really know what to do, and he's kind of lost. He's sort of spiralling out of control, and Ben finds himself all dragged into that as well. I think Shopfront is fairly autobiographical. I wrote it just after I graduated university with an English degree into a period of recession and unemployment, so yeah, I think that was definitely the same situation I was in, but I think I wrote it to make Ben have a really tough time of it in the hope that my life would not mirror where he goes. And luckily it didn't, but it was kind of close. So I think there's a lot of little stories that are true, and they're based on real things and they're based on real people. But luckily I think for me it didn't go right down that path, because he doesn't have a great time of it.
There's a sense of vibrancy about being Scottish you just didn't get anywhere else. Ken, when you're singing, and it's just like you can hear all these Scots just singing with you, like you're part of an army ready to take on the world. Pete leans back in towards the table, whispering, "Fuck boys, we better move." Like you're about to go to battle and you're invincible because you're fighting for truth and your people and your homeland. "Boys," Pete says again, louder this time, rubbing his chin, glancing over his shoulder. "Pride and honour and all that. Here!" A voice shouts across the pub and cuts Niall off. We all turn and look. 3 guys, a bit older than us, are standing with the doorway. 3 massive guys blocking off the main exit. "Here," one of them says again, taking a step forward. "One of you boys pulled a blade on me last week." He reaches inside his jacket pocket and pulls out a small kitchen knife. Smiling, he turns it slowly in his hand. "Well, now it's my turn."
How do you stay motivated? What keeps you going when you're just not getting anywhere?
Shortfront was originally written as a series of short stories that Doug Johnson told me basically the characters are good, but you need a proper plot to tie them all in together. And then I realised that I had something going, and I kind of just got into it as a project. Like, it filled my afternoons. I'd wake up in the morning and just hunt for jobs and apply for jobs, and then come sort of lunchtime, I would write, and then in the evenings I could check the job sites again or something like that. So it was like this nice project that kept me focused. But I also thought I had people like Rog Glass telling me about his experience when he was a young writer, and it was basically like, it's not easy. You just need to keep going at it and trust in yourself and believe that you can get there and you can do it. So I think it was half distraction and half just really brash determination that I knew I wanted to do it, and I reckoned I could. And it was kind of like a goal that I set for myself, that I really wanted to get it done. And then eventually I did. I stopped originally at about 40,000 words, which is about 2/3 of the way through the book, and thought that was like a novella. It's a little draft. And then I went back to it again and thought, there's a lot more that needs finished, and I really sort of delved into it and then came up with this overriding plot, and then rewrote the book. And that was, I think, when I saw this kind of end goal, which was probably roughly actually the same time that I started to get job interviews and I started to get work. Things started to look up.
Please welcome Samuel Best.
Were you nervous about the launch of it?
Yeah, I was terrified at the launch. I thought no one would turn up. I think that's going to be, everyone is going to have that fear, whether it's your birthday party or whether it's your book launch. You're always going to think that you're going to be the uncool kid that everyone says they're coming and then no one does. But I think that the scene in Scotland, the literary scene and the art scene in Scotland, is really supportive. So there's a lot of people that I knew who did turn up, and they were there for me, and I was really appreciative of that. And I think that is indicative of that sort of arts movement that we have right now. And I think that was a really positive thing, but I was still nervous 10 minutes before it started, just in case, because it's a hell of a job trying to launch a book when you're 24 years old and no one really knows who you are, and you're in the biggest bookshop in Scotland saying, yeah, come and buy my book. Luckily it all worked out. A lot of people turned up and they enjoyed the readings, which is obviously important to give them that live experience of it, because I think that the stories really come to life when you're not just reading it in a book, you're seeing them performed. There's one of them that I'd read a lot, and it had been one of the first parts of the book that I'd written, and I'm really used to reading that, and it's really well rehearsed. And then there's one that I'd never read before that was a bit more of a gamble, but that was quite exciting, and I didn't realise how much swearing there was in it until I was up there saying all of these horrible things in front of all of these people that I knew who were expecting much better of me.
I mean, nowadays Scotland's just full of folk trying as hard as they can to kill themselves, plain and simple. There's no glory here, there's no Glens and Heather. You're thinking of a different Scotland, Niall, one from the past. Like, for example, mind that taxi journey last month we went through Camelin? It was just full of different ways to fucking ruin your own life. Tanning salons, betting shops, office, pubs, takeaways. That's all Scotland is now. A fucking wasteland. Full of a few different ways to try and kill yourself, and who could fucking blame you? The only ones not sucking shite in the gutter are the ones like you, full of this pride for a country they still think is full of Jacobites and Rabbie Burns and Walter Scott, but it's not. There's fuck all here except pride and dickheads.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about Octavius, what it is and how it came about?
Octavius is a literary magazine for students who are studying any subject at all in any Scottish college or university. It started just after the editors had left university themselves. We had always wanted to have a kind of outlet for creative writing, and there's student newspapers for people who study journalism, but there was never anything for people who did creative writing. So we thought we would sort of come out with our own, and we'd make it a sort of national thing, to reach everyone in Scotland, all of the different institutions, all of the different people who come, who sort of travel to Scotland or who are born in Scotland. It doesn't really matter. So there's a lot of different people that we wanted to reach. So we put out this big call for submissions, expecting a few, and we got a lot. We got a lot more than we were expecting. And that was the sort of the first sign that we were onto something. And then when we put the first issue together, we got a lot of really good reviews, a lot of good press. A lot of the people in it went on to these sort of bigger, better things as well. People signing book deals, people getting arts grants to work on their writing, that sort of thing. And then the second one came out and we had even more. I think we had double the submissions for the second issue than from the first. And again, it was really well received. And we're now on to our third issue, which is just currently being edited just now, which we're hoping to get out sort of by the end of the year. Yeah, so it's pretty much anyone at all who studies anything in Scotland can send us poetry or prose, and we'll have a read. You can go to the website, which is www.octaviusmagazine.com. All the different submissions guidelines are there, and there's a little portal you can upload your work to, and you can get it straight to us, or you can send it to submissions@octaviusmagazine.com. It doesn't really make a difference, it both ends up in the same inbox. Or you can email info@octaviusmagazine if you want a little bit more information about it.
You're also involved with the Significant Seven. Can you explain a little bit about that?
The Significant Seven was an event put on by Dixon Telfer and Fledgling Press, who were the publishers of his first short story collection, The Red Man Turns to Green. And it was designed to be a showcase of the 7 most exciting writers out in Scotland just now. And before I had signed the publishing deal, Dixon asked me to be included, and I think I was really flattered, and I was quite excited, and I was a little bit confused as to whether they got the right person. But through that I got to know Claire from Fledgling and talked to her a lot about Shotfront, kind of trying to sneakily pitch it to her, and just to learn a little bit more about Fledgling Press, the sort of work that they do. And then on the night itself, it's literally 7 writers get a really good sized slot in this really beautiful venue underneath the church in Edinburgh, to perform basically to this really friendly crowd, and everyone really enjoyed it. And I think the reading I'd done was another fresh reading that I'd never performed before, but it went down really well. It's just really funny piece about cancer, and yeah, and it went well. And afterwards, Fledgling had a read of Shotfront and ended up signing it, and it all sort of spiraled from there. And then we've done another one since, which again was really well. It was really well received, and there's always, I think, a really positive atmosphere, and it's nice because there's a lot of really good talent out there, and it's always a really good night. And I think you've got 7 really varied readings, very varied performers, but they're all really good, if I can say that without sounding really big-headed. But yeah, so it's been really positive, I think, to get all these people grouped together. And I got to be the headliner for the last one because it was just before Shotfront came out, which was a nice kind of circular thing to go from the very first one where it hadn't even been really pitched to Fledgling yet, to this final one where it was like a month before I think the book came out. And it went really well, and it was quite bizarre to find myself following people like Alan Bissett, who I'd looked up to all the way through my writing career, be it from when I was like a teenager all the way through university. And I always thought, this is like the big guy, and then there's me going on after him to sort of close the show, which was really good fun.
Working so close with Alan Bissett must be a privilege for you.
Yeah, it's taught me a lot about what it is to be a professional writer. I think that a lot of people, me included, thought that to be a writer is you sit at home and you write stories and people pay you money for it, but sadly that's not the case. There's a lot more to it. It's a lot more about going out and doing readings or doing, teaching people, that sort of thing. I think in a way it's quite nice because it's a lot more inclusive. People interact a lot more and it brings the writing a lot more to life. And I think, it's been good to see how a successful writer works from, right down to the administration side of it, doing invoices, talking about, money coming in, money going out, what to do with filing, that sort of thing. Really kind of basic stuff, but it taught me a lot and got me a lot more organised. And I think that I've seen a reflection in that, it's easier to do my tax returns now, and also stuff like keeping track of things like where your stories are being sent out to if you're submitting to magazines. Something that Annalise McIntosh taught me was to have a spreadsheet and really be organised and see it as a business, which is exactly how Alan operates, and obviously it pays off. And it is really bizarre sitting in his living room talking to him thinking, I remember when I was 17 and I thought you were just this big celebrity and stuff, and then you're being really cool to me and I'm drinking your coffee. So it is strange, and I still really look up to Alan, and I think it is a real privilege to work with him because he's doing so many exciting things that it's nice to even try and keep up with him because he's just light years ahead of everyone. Yeah, it's really exciting.
What does future hold for Sam Best?
Lots of high hopes. I've got 2 books now are finished, and one of them has been edited, one of them needs a good edit. So one of them has been sent out to a publisher just now and it's being read, and the other one, a little sample has been sent out, but the rest of it needs a bit of work. So hopefully one or both of those will lead somewhere. And then I've got some more live performances. I've got a show at the Fringe. I've got an event in Falkirk for Yes Scotland, and just more of the same really. Lots of writing, lots of performing, and then Octavius will be coming out at the end of the year, so keep him busy.
What's the best way for people to get in touch or keep up with what you're up to?
The easiest way is to find me on Twitter. I'm always there talking all sorts of nonsense. I'm at SPBBest, or you can go on my website, which is samuelbest.weebly.com, because it's a free website and I'm too cheap to pay for samuelbest.com. So that's probably the easiest way to get in touch, and I post everything on there in terms of Octavius stuff and stuff about my writing and performances, that sort of thing.
Thanks to Samuel for his time, and Aaron Jones of Old Blind Dogs, who kindly allowed use of their music track for this piece.